Have you heard of the amendment to the secret surveillance that were passed in Los Angeles recently? At the beginning of our chat today, I can't wait to share this news with you as it further affirmed our struggle for privacy. According to the amendment, the propensity for facial recognition technology to endanger civil rights and civil liberty substantially outweighs its purported benefits. This would mean that Los Angeles could be the first city in the United States to ban the face recognition and other monitoring technology that violates citizen privacies. Since the exposure of PRISM, this is a dolorous victory in the collision between citizen privacy and the so-called national security. As an American university student just like many of you, obviously national security is important to me, but at the same time, as a future researcher, I certainly don't want my personal life and research results to be stolen by the government. As you may see, I'm very contradictory, and I believe that many of you just like this. It seems that we have trouble to make an absolutely rational judgment right. When I'm about to collapse, it's natural that I ask myself, do I must make this choice? Unsupervised surveillance is definitely not the only way, so can we make a balance between national security and personal privacy so that we don't have to make such a choice? My answer is yes. I know that there are many opponents who stubbornly believe that security and privacy are opposition. It seems to be this case. More and more criminals use the information protection of smartphones to bypass the monitoring, and the FBI has also defended the mobile phone again and again. And even the White House is discussing the possibility of pre-installing the backdoor for the mobile phone. However, these convictions are flawed. From the perspective of the SBIs, there's one thing they don't consider. If they can access the user's mobile phone data through the backdoors, the bad guys can do too. It's only a matter of time that people without government authorization will find a way to enter this door. Quote from John Tangi. This means that we may benefit from it, but we will lose more. The leaked privacy will in turn provide terrorists with more opportunities to undermine national securities. Still not to convince you? You said that National Security Agency is not only monitoring mobile phone data, but other monitoring is helpful for protecting national security. They affirmed that, but is this true? I'm suspicious as Edward Snowden shows the evidence that, including the first federal court, Congress, and 2 independent White House review meetings, they questioned this secret surveillance project of National Security Agency by reviewing all secret data and discovering that this action has never stopped any terrorist attacks that may occur in the United States. Apart from this, a report by Georgetown University's Center of Strategic and International Study point out that the number of Salafish jihadists in 2018 was almost 3 times that was the September 11th terrorist attacks. Frustrated you? It seems that the National Security Agency's claim for national security is just what they call national security, and their strategy of causing great controversy has not evaluated the threat of terrorism. So, what reason do we have not to ask the government to stop the privacy monitoring of such violence against citizens? I believe that many of you have experienced or at least heard about the experience of being carefully trialed by the FBI. In such an event, you are always supposed to be a terrorist and have been carefully interrogated about what you are doing all the time in the past 24 hours. Sounds terrible, but at least you have the right to defend or self-explain. But if the action of covert surveillance are not content, you will probably be convicted without knowing it, as they can get all the information they want by just monitoring your information and even spoof information to accuse you. This sounds like a conspiracy theory, but consider some cases that started with racial discrimination. This consideration is obviously reasonable. My dear friend, have this already broken away from your basic expectation of protecting national security? When evidence can come from unauthorized personal privacy, when government power continue to expand, can we still trust that the government is fair? Can our proud democracy still be unscathed? As Brazilian President Rousseff once said in a speech to the United Nations, if there is no right to privacy, there can be no true freedom to expression and opinion, and therefore no effective democracy. If the US government still insists on its own ways, the great country is exhausted from the inside, which should be more vigilant than terrorism. But we also have to admit that national security is indeed very important. Although the secret surveillance of the National Security Agency did not prevent any terrorist activities, it's not that we deny the government's mastery of information does not help to suppress terrorist attacks. As early as 2003, Andrew Eggers and James Steinberg point out in a research report called Building Intelligence to Fight Terrorism that only by understanding the enemy can we predict its attack and prevent various potential crises. What we are talking about here is the value of intelligence, and the acquisition of intelligence is not limited to monitoring without consent. So, when we realize this, we can see how the NSA tried to confuse us in the way to protect national security. As we have shown that both safety and privacy are important, how could we make such a balance? Let us think about the question first. Why are we so angry about the behavior of the National Security Agency? The point is that we don't want to be monitored without getting our permission or informing us. Note that they unknowingly played a big role here. In fact, we have all experienced a lot of privacy sharing which do not annoy us. For example, when we use social softwares, they always require us to read our access data and personal preference to push content that we will be more interested in. Many people agree and don't feel embarrassed or annoyed, because at these times we regard this privacy as a resource, and we consider it as a pay, and we have received some other things that we pay more attention to, such as a pleasant user experience or just convenience. It's like transactions, and privacy seems to be money in this process. Many people are very happy to accept such a model of private sales. So, can we get some inspiration from these examples? Yes, we can sell our privacy to government or a third party recognized both by the government and the public to prevent the overflow of the government rights. In return, the government use this data to provide us with a more stable and safe social environment and even some welfare that are allowed. However, this depends on the suitable system which should be built after fully listen to the public opinions, and just as there are rules in the money market, in the transaction of privacy, the scale of the transaction, how to pay and harvest, there are need to be resolved. Now we have seen the value of our struggles. High-tech companies like Apple have already tried to compensate for the loss of user trust in the prism. Apple has begun to adopt full encryption and promised not to read and provide backdoors and keys to any government department to decrypt users' information. We look forward to government's ability to find a balance between security and privacy. except more sensible decision makers like the Los Angeles state government that remove mandatory privacy monitoring and try to provide a balanced approach that everyone is more acceptable. Thank you.